Hello YouTube, it's William. Let's continue the series of what William likes. Let's talk about me. No, let's talk about what I prefer as far as knives. And this next series we're going to talk about grinds, what I prefer in grinds. Now, before I start this, I want to just say up front, my favorite grind, hands down period, is the Woodsman's grind that I developed. So, but I mean, that pretty much is the only place you're going to get that grind. It's a specialty grind, so you're only going to get it here, the true Woodsman's grind. I think I've seen some others out there that looks like they're attempting it, but anyway, so let's talk about what is standard on the market and what's available in mass productions and other shops and things like that. That's a typical and most common grinds. Let's just go there. Now, before I'm talking about grinds that has the proper geometry, and I'm going to put a video link below of what I'm talking about when I say proper geometry. Because on a secondary grind, if you don't have a proper thickness of the blade on a secondary grind, then all bets are off. That knife is not going to perform as it should. I'm talking about knife grinds that has proper geometry. So let's get started. Primarily, when we talk about grinds and blade shapes and all this other stuff, then it falls back on what that knife is intended use is. That dictates what kind of grind you should have, or would want, or should prefer. Okay. For me, if I'm going to go car camping in a area that's open, that has campsites, or if I'm going backpacking on a trail that has designated campsites, and I don't want to carry a lot of weight, then a small Scandi blade, 4-inch blade, would be plenty. It would allow me to do a little carving on camp, do some small firecraft, get fires going, open some packages and boil water and things like that. Then a Scandi blade is probably would be my choice. If I'm going to go off the beaten path and do some camping in some little bit of brush and want to need a little bit more of a different edge as far as durability and do a little hunting and things like that, then I'm probably going to want a Saber edge. That edge is a little bit stronger than a Scandi, and it'll hold up to a little bit more abuse than a Scandi will in most cases. Okay, let's just clarify that. It also performs better, a Saber does, processing game, doing kitchen prep, things like that, because a Saber has a little bit further up the blade that's narrow than a Scandi. The Scandi is like this, a Saber is like this. So you have a little bit more up the blade to travel for those dense things when you're slicing. It allows it to open up better and doesn't have so much drag. So, but you also have the blade thickness for the most part for strength. So, a Saber is a good multi-purpose, multi-use grind. Now, if I'm going on camp and I'm going to be hunting, and I want something that's going to butcher some game, and I have an axe with me for the more tougher details, then a full flat is my preferred blade. A full flat is going to excel in the meat processing, the game prep, slicing ability in your kitchen prep, slicing onions, carrots, things that are dense, so you have a thin blade that goes through it, so you have even less drag than the Saber does. So that's the reason kitchen knives are full flat for a reason, is because they don't have that drag when they're slicing through dense material. But again, that's a companion knife. You would want something a little bit heavier to take care of a lot of your batoning and things like that. You wouldn't want to baton a full flat into very much. I mean, you can get away with some small kindling and things like that, but if you had saturated woods and you had to get to the heart of a larger log to get some dry material, then you wouldn't want to be beating on your full flat bladed knife. Probably best to use a hatchet or an axe for that. So that's the reason I say that full flat is probably more of a companion blade than the Saber or the Scandi. Because Saber and the Scandi is a little bit more heavier used blade. I have used hollow grinds to an extent. My extent of using of hollow grinds is buck, and buck was designed for game prep period, for skinning chores, for slicing meat and those things, and they excel at that. I wasn't too thrilled with the other tasks with a hollow grind. Now I'm sure that there's custom makers out there that does a different hollow grind that probably works great. I haven't used those, but in my experience, I don't care for the hollow grind. Now the next grind would be a convex grind, and a convex grind, if you're going to be chopping, if you want a large chopper, then a convex grind is your primary grind. It has the most robust edge of any knife grind. That's why Axis has a convex grind. So if you want a heavy use cut through bone type of edge, then you would want a convex grind. Now, to kind of re-emphasize, I didn't want to make this very long. The grind is going to depend on what you want to use the knife for. So you have to kind of, there's going to be some good points to the knife grind that you choose, and there's going to be some bad points. So what you want to do is you want to say, okay, mostly this is what I'm going to use the knife for, and that's choose your grind that way. There's going to be some weak areas in every grind, so just be aware of that. It's not going to excel at everything. So when you're picking out a knife grind, just think about that. You want to make sure that your knife grind is going to not be weak in a task that you may have to perform. And what I'm saying is, if you're saying that mostly what I go to is I go to car camping, but every once in a while I go out in the boonies and I don't want to take an axe with me, then you better prepare for the boonies. Okay? Is what I'm saying. Make your selection to the boonies, because you don't want to be out there with a full flat knife and no axe, and then you need to make a fire and it's pouring rain, and the only material you can find is 4-inch logs that you had to baton. You found some sawn logs out there somewhere that somebody sawed in half and left laying there in the water, and you have to baton those with your knife. I'm being a little facetious, but anyway, that's probably like aliens coming down and stealing all your gear. But hey, Murphy's Law, who knows? I'm sure it's happened to somebody. But what I'm saying is, prepare for the worst case scenario. Think about the worst case scenario that you're going to ever use the knife, and purchase accordingly. Now, if you have the ability, buy more than one. Hey, have a bunch of knives. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I have drawers of knives. Need more. But anyway, back to the point. So just to kind of recap, if I'm going to choose a knife grind other than the Woodsman's grind, probably me personally and the way I use a knife, it would be a a full flat is probably what I would use most for game prep. A little bit of whittling, carving. I love the way a full flat carves. It also, kitchen prep, game prep, butchering game. To me, a full flat just kind of covers the gambit. Now, I don't, for fire prep and heavy use, I have a axe with me, or a hatchet. Even in my area, very seldom do I ever have to baton wood. I can count on less than one hand how many times I've had to do that. Now, I've done it just playing around, but I'm talking necessity. You have to get some dry material. And I live in a fairly wet environment. But with that said, the full flat is probably would be my second choice other than the woodsman's grind. Third choice would be definitely be a saber, because with the proper geometry, a saber will do a lot of tasks, and it has a little bit beefier blade, and will do some heavier tasks than a full flat would do. That would probably be, if I wanted to leave the hatchet or the axe at the house and just go stay out on camp one night, then a saber blade would be more than adequate. If I was going car camping, then of course I would take I would probably, third choice would be a Scandi blade, and just do a little whittling on camp, and something like that. Then beyond that, it just kind of gets a little fuzzy. Probably after that, I would try to use a convex. I'm not a convex type guy. I would just if you like convexes, then that's great. But I just don't care for convexes, and I care for hologrinds even less. But again, that's probably my experience with hologrinds. I'm not sure. But those are my choices. I hope from my opinions you've thought about this and chose a grind that's going to fit your needs, and choose wisely, because you may need that grind someday to help save your life. Not likely, but it could happen. So until the next one, you guys get out in the woods. Go in the backyard, whittle on a stick. Be sure and take a child with you if you have the opportunity. And don't forget those Band-Aids and lots of knives. We'll catch you again soon.